Hi everyone, if you're an existing subscriber, hello and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, hello, welcome, and why not hit subscribe now? I'm your host Alicia Vittoria and I've been interviewing inspirational people and businesses to find out how and why they inspire others. This week I interviewed bodyguard and businessman Brenden. Here's how it went. And welcome to the channel. To begin with, if you could just introduce yourself, who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Brenda, private security consultant.
So how did you get into that? Where did it all start?
Well, it started a long time ago. Um, I joined the military at a very young age. Back then days, we were called boy soldiers because we were like boys, we were just kids. And I served a long time in the army. I did 16 years. And then when I retired from military service, I went into private contract work. So it was all that military experience, and we were paid very bad. Our conditions weren't great. It didn't bother me so much, but then you kind of get to an age where you're looking at your peers in society and that, and guys that you went to school with, and they were doing so much better financially. Um, where I had a brilliant career and I was doing really well in my career. I was getting to an age where I kind of really needed to look at, the next stage in my life and that kind of financial security. I didn't have it in the military. And I guess I had to figure out, like, was I going to stay and do another like 20 odd years and retire an old man, on a pension? Or was I going to get out and, try something different and, kind of see the financial rewards for that? So I did. I left before my pension years, and but it was a good move. Financially, it was a very good move. Within a very short period of time, I did really well. I set up my own company, and but I missed, and to this day still miss, that sense of family and camaraderie that you only get in the military, that you only get in serving with the armed forces.
Would you say anything what you learned in the military has now helped you with your career?
Everything, everything. I mean, it stood to me. It's helped me deal with so many different situations. Apart from my military training, management skills, dealing with so many different types of people, different personalities. When we have the army is just a giant asylum, with walls, and you meet every head the ball in it. And when you get outside, it really helps you. If you're in a bad conflict situation, and like they taught us conflict management, and it's not all about shooting your way out of something. It's about being able to talk your way out of something, being able to negotiate your way through a bad situation. So yeah, the army, everything I've done in my life, I credit to my service in the army. Every positive thing and every good thing that's happened in my life, career wise, certainly.
Taking a career change is quite a daunting thing to do because you never know what way it's going to go. For someone who's watching this who's probably thinking the same sort of thing, wants a career change, what would you say to them?
It is a big step, I guess, at time for me leaving. So, I had all those other issues, finance and my future, and was I going to make this decision about leaving before pension? Um, my dad died that year, and my dad was really proud of me being in the army, and he loved it. He loved the fact that I was a soldier, and in the unit that I served with, I tended to be on a lot of ceremonial duties as well, because I was tall and I was a pretty jilty soldier, and not pretty, but a jilty soldier. And I'd be on the TV every now and again, like some ceremony, national ceremony or something would be on, or a state funeral, or a president, or a foreign dignitary arriving, and I'd be with them. And my dad had see that. Nobody could talk in the house once that was on the telly, you know, and he loved that. And I think that when he passed, it was another reason, you know, not to stay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think had he lived longer, I probably would have stayed in. I probably wouldn't have wanted to leave, because I think it would have upset him, me leaving the army. So when that happened and I made the decision to go out, it was scary. It was like, okay, I have known nothing else since I was a kid. I left school and came into the military at 16 years of age. I didn't know anything else. They literally are your family. And it was a huge step, and I knew nothing about business, nothing whatsoever, had no idea whatsoever. And I'd got a good military education. So I was kind of prepared academically, but I hadn't done any business. I hadn't thought about owning a business or running a business. It never occurred to me. So it was a huge step, sure, to take when I came out. But if somebody was thinking of that career change per se, you just got to be brave. You got to go, okay, it's a new planet. It might as well have been Mars from Earth for me, from the Earth, from the life that I knew. Going into civilian life was just incredible and confusing, frustrating at times. You know, when I was going to meetings, and say the meeting was like 1,500 hours, and I'd arrive there. I always like to be at least a half an hour beforehand, definitely 15. We used to say 15 minutes before the appointed time of duty. So you'd be there ready to go. And they didn't care. It could be half. You know, you could be waiting on something to be delivered to you, or you could order, you know, whatever. And should they pull in any time at that? You know, you couldn't deal with civilians the way you could deal with soldiers. Mm-hmm. Like, you couldn't ball a civilian out of it. They'd go running to their union or crying or something. So, you know, I'd be used to being up there in a fella's face, or I'd be used to having a senior officer up there in my face, and, you know, it was nothing. It was like, okay, that's just how things are.
How did you overcome that and now, like, be successful? How did you get through that initial, what's going on, why is no one on time sort of thing?
It was difficult. The first couple of years were very difficult. But as we say, we adapt, improvise, and overcome. And I had to do that, you know, as best I could. And like I said, once I started to adapt and I started to realize how things worked outside, I got on top of it very quickly. And I drew on, like I said, I drew on my military experience, and I put things in place. And then as my work brought me overseas again in a private capacity, I had all that overseas experience that I was able to bring and engaging with, you know, different cultures, different religions, different, you know, views on life. I mean, it's incredible. This is such a diverse planet. Don't view kindness as a weakness. You know, you can be kind, but be strong at the same time. You know, be approachable, but at the same time, show that you're strong and you're not weak. So yeah, that was just another aspect to, I guess, my success in what I was doing outside once I left the military, was to being able to adapt to those circumstances and situations, and communication. I learned good communication skills from the army that I was able to put into those situations.
It was interesting what you said there as well about, like, the first couple of years were really difficult, because when you speak to a lot of people who are changing career, they always say that initial bit's really difficult, but once you get past that, and like you say, once you learn to adopt what you've already learned to something new, eventually you get there. So it's about keeping going and not giving up, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I remember my mum saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," but it is absolutely true. And if you and trust me, I had a lot of bumps in the road. I mean, like, I actually made a lot of money very quickly. Now, I don't count success on financial gain, I guess. To be honest with you, I didn't even know how much when I set up my business first. And I was just like operationally going 24 hours around the clock, 7 days a week. I didn't even think about the money. I actually had no idea how much money I had in the bank at the time. And I guess to prove a point, I remember getting a tax bill for 65,000 euros, and the girl in the office said it to me, and she said, just write a check. You can't just write a check for 65 grand. And she was looking at me and she goes, Brenda, do you know how much money you have in the bank? Now, when I say money, the company's money, you know? And I went, actually, no, I hadn't thought about it. She said, just write a check for 65 grand, it'll be okay. You know, so I hadn't a clue. So I wasn't, you know, I know that there was financial motivation, but I actually liked the work I was doing. And this was domestic work at the time mostly. Focused on it. I was focused on building that business. So I hadn't thought about the money. And if you're focused on your business, and if you give it 100%, the money will just happen. You know, don't be sitting there with your calculator at the end of the month going, oh, how much do I make? How much? It doesn't matter. You're gonna win and lose. You're gonna win and lose. Gonna win and lose. And in a very short period of time, I had done really, really well. And then, and I ran that business nationally and internationally for 10 years. And then the big crash came, and I literally lost everything overnight. But I learned a valuable life lesson out of it, and I changed when I got back. I said I have to get back on my feet, because you can only go down so far, and then there's nothing. You know, you literally hit rock bottom. So the only way is up after that. I had a good reputation. I wasn't afraid of hard work. I had tons of experience, so I knew I was going to do okay. I just needed a little bit of time to get back on my feet, and I did. And I got back on my feet fairly quickly.
How did you get back up on your feet?
Just by, well, the first thing I did was I adjusted how I thought. I adjusted my business model. I was very top heavy with employees at one stage. I mean, like, I had a lot of people work for me. And then the way I changed, because of the type of work I was doing, I started to focus more on international work. And then I changed how I hired people. I didn't actually hire people, I contracted them on a job basis. It was a complete different business model, and that made a huge difference. And I got back on my feet fairly quickly. It just meant that I planned on being retired at 45, and I kind of had to, after that 10 years, like, that was it. It wasn't going to happen. You know, I had to start from scratch, but I wasn't afraid to start from scratch. I mean, it happens to people all the time. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who've been bankrupt several times and are now multimillionaires. You know, they've been down, they've been back, they've been down, they've been back. And the good thing about starting off poor, you know, or very low income, or, you know, starting at the bottom, is that when you have it, unless you're a complete, you know, I won't say it on screen, but you're still the same person. I'm materialistic. I have a Harley. I built it. My Jeep is 2007. I don't care. I like that bike because it's my favorite type of bike. You know, I've rode newer versions and I don't like them. I like that bike outside. So I was never materialistic. What I found is that when you take that nosedive again, I mean, I actually remember sitting on my bike outside after being a millionaire, after losing everything literally overnight, and sitting on my bike outside a little greasy spoon I used to go into. And I pulled up beside it. I was really hungry. I've been driving around all morning sorting things out. And I pulled up outside the greasy spoon. And I said, a cup of tea and a sandwich now go down really, really well. And I had €5. It's all I had in the world in cash was €5. And I remember opening my fuel tank, looking in, shaking the bike and looking and going, oh man. It was either £5 worth of fuel to get some more things done that might bring about a new start, or go in and buy a cup of tea and a sandwich. So I went hungry for another few hours, put the petrol in and drove around. And I said that day was the lowest I was ever going to go. That was it. That was rock bottom, when you're left with a £5 and you're left with a decision. Am I going to eat, or am I going to put fuel in the bike that's going to maybe bring me to somewhere I need to go to start getting this right again. And that's exactly what I did. And that was my lowest point during that episode. And so after that, I came back and went overseas, took some work overseas in a really bad conflict situation, but the money was really, really good. I set up a company overseas then, and based myself sort of in West Africa, and worked from there and built my business again. Like I said, it was a new business model and hiring contractors and looking for, I stopped domestic work almost completely. I would do the odd bodyguard job if I was in my own country, and if somebody knew I was there, clients that that liked to use me for VIPs, if there was pop stars coming in or movie stars coming in, or even high-end business people and stuff like that, I'd look after. And but that's all. The rest of my stuff was all overseas.
Do you think it helped that it was something you were so passionate about, which kept you going?
It definitely did. I mean, what you also have to be careful of, like, I remember at one stage somebody coming into my office and they handed me a letter, and it was an offer from another company for 1.3 million to buy my business. And my business wasn't going that long at the time. And I remember reading it, and I was looking at the offer, and there was all the legal aspects to it as well, and accountants would have to meet accountants and lawyers and stuff like that. And I was looking at it, I was going, why would I want to sell it? I love what I'm doing. Sell it and do what? Had I known like what was coming in the future, I'd go, yeah, okay, it's gone. So I was very much attached to it emotionally, which is, for any young entrepreneurs out there, I would advise them now, don't get caught up in your business emotionally. Because if you have that emotion, I had an emotional attachment which cost me a fortune. It made me borrow money and invest my savings, everything. And there was no recovery. So I lost it. And it was only because I was so emotionally attached. All I kept saying was, I've given 10 years of my life to this. It's like, yes, I love this mug. It's one of my favorite mugs. Name your poison. It's one of my favorite mugs. If I dropped it on the floor, yeah, I'd be a little bit upset. I go, oh shit, I really love that mug. I have a drawer full of mugs. I can go down to the store and get another mug. I'm attached to my dog. Emotions should be for people, not things. You can replace things. You can't replace people. Building my business going forward. I built my business, several businesses going forward, with a view that I'm probably going to sell this. If an offer comes up for this business, it's gone. And I'll move on to the next, because I hadn't got that emotional attachment. I didn't allow that emotional attachment. Yes, I worked my ass off. Yes, I took a lot of risks. Yes, I made a lot of investments. But everything's an investment. You invest your time, you invest your money, you invest whatever it is you invest. The thing about investment is that you're either going to do really well out of it, or it's not going to work. But don't get emotionally attached to it.
Do you think that mindset's what has made you successful?
Again, I've been very successful, thank God. I think that mindset has helped me a lot. But I think it's genetics as well. It's DNA. My mum and my dad were yin and yang. They were complete opposites. And I'm lucky. I'm a little bit of both. My mum was nuts. She was nuts. She's like one of the funniest people I ever met. And she lived to be almost 95. And when I say she loved every second of life. If she could have got another 195 years out of it, she'd have gone for it. And there was nothing she wouldn't do, nowhere she wouldn't go. She was an adventurer. She was funny. She loved music. She loved dancing. She loved life. You know, she really lived the vida loca. My dad was much, much more reserved. He was a carpenter. He was a very quiet man, a very dry sense of humor. He was an absolute gentleman. And I obviously took after my mom more. But I got enough of both of them that has really stood by me over the years and helped me be successful. There are some people in business who are extremely successful because they are extremely ruthless. Mm-hmm. Some of those big multinationals that they don't even know how many people are working for them at this stage. They're ruthless. They acquire other people's companies and all these, you know, these acquisitions, you know, where people are struggling and that. They're like vultures, you know, and they just zoom in on a weakness, or if they see, oh, hold on, we have an opportunity here. Or they walk all over you for a contract. I wasn't a big company now. I was a medium-sized company. I didn't want to be anything because I was very hands-on operationally. I knew all my employees. I helped them. I was like, I wasn't just their boss. I was like a social worker. I was all sorts with them. You know, they could come to me directly. I had line managers, but I let every employee know, look, you know, if you're not happy with that line manager, you don't think that they're going to hear your case properly, I'll hear your case. Like, you know, and that's how I work things. I didn't want to be bigger than that if I couldn't. And my clients knew me on a very personal level. You know, they didn't have, yes, their operational managers could talk to my operational managers on day-to-day functional stuff. But if they wanted to talk to me personally, because it was kind of me that they hired initially, then I would deal with them directly. I never had that issue.
So for a while you were working with Dr. Starkey, providing, or going around with him, providing hearing aids to people in not so great countries so that they could hear again. How was that as an experience?
So Starkey was the name of the foundation. It was the Starkey Hearing Foundation. But the man who owned it was a guy called, or is a guy, he's still alive, thank God. His name is Bill Austin, out of Minneapolis. So I worked with him I first met him in Haiti in 2011. And I was working there in another operation. And I finished that November. And I was in India. And I think, so I arrived in India on the 4th of November. And on the 6th of November, the foundation arrived and we're in a hotel 2 blocks up from me. This is just pure coincidence. I was there for something else. And I'd been in touch with one of the guys that was with the foundation at the time. And just this random email, he said, you're in India, whereabouts in India are you? And he tells me, and I go, there's no way, brother. I'm literally down the street. He couldn't believe it. So I was actually on my way to Agra. I was going into the Taj and Taj Mahal and to see it. And I had some people with me at the time I was bringing there. And I went up to their hotel, and the people I was like taking to see the Taj Mahal, I ended up getting them to volunteer for the day with Starkey, and I volunteered, and we had a brilliant day volunteering with them. And I helped them with it. They had a film crew with them, and they were having a few security issues. So I helped them out with the security issues and got contacts I had to work with them and stuff like that. I had no intent. I was already on a job. That was it. So I got contacts to help them, etc. And then shortly afterwards, they had some other overseas work. They wanted to do some stuff in northern Uganda, and the Lord's Resistance Army, although it was more or less gone, but there were still elements of it there, and there was still a threat. And so they asked me would I go up there and do some reconnaissance work and manage their transport, security, that kind of thing for them. And so I did. I went up and I did that. And then they asked me, I remember at the time, they asked me would I go on to Tanzania. Now, I had a lot of other work on at the time. And I was going, geez, how am I going to manage this? So I moved the pieces around a bit, and I got other contractors to come in and do other stuff I was doing for clients. And I went to Tanzania. then they asked me would I go to Ethiopia, and I went, yeah, okay, because I'd worked in all these places before. So I went, okay, I'll go to Ethiopia. So I was up in Ethiopia for them, and then I went to Lebanon, and I'd served in Lebanon. I love Lebanon. Lebanon is like a second home to me nearly at this stage. So I worked with a film crew in Lebanon for them. Then we went to Malaysia. And then there was a documentary, they were doing a documentary in Papua New Guinea, and I went down there for them. And that was like early 2012. And then in between that stuff, I was doing my own contracts. And because I had this other business going on, I carried on with that for a while. And then it got busier and busier. And that Christmas, Mr. Austin called me and he goes, Brenden, he said, I'm planning on really expanding the program next year. And we're changing some things, he said, and I'd like to know if you'd be able to give us more of your time, basically, and work with us on a more personal level. And I said, yeah, I can do that. Like that year, actually, it was amazing because that year a fundraiser, and I went to that, and as his bodyguard, and he had every A-list celebrity you can think of went to it. I always celebrate our Scottish ancestry as well by wearing the clan tartan. So if I'm at a formal function, I'll wear my Highland uniform. And I remember being at the gala in 2012, and I'm standing on the red carpet just up from Mr. Austin, and all these celebrities, VIPs coming in, some of whom I'd worked with as a bodyguard myself, and I knew a few of them, which was really funny because they were saying hello to me and I'd say hello to them, and Mr. Austin was kind of looking on, how the hell does he know them, you know? It was kind of funny. But anyway, this gentleman in particular was going along, and I was looking at him going, oh my God, I can't believe he's here, you know? It's just incredible. And he's an elderly man, and he's walking along, and he's on the red carpet, and of course he's having interviews done, you know, all the cameras and TV and all they're all on the red. He walked over towards me, and he came up to me and he said, who are you? And I told him, and he said, what are you? And I told him, and he said, would you mind if I had a photograph taken with you? So I'm looking at this guy, I go, no, I said, that'd be nice, you know? So he calls one of the photographers. I mean, these are press photographers. He goes, hey, you, yeah, get a photograph with this guy, you know? So I get my photograph taken with him, and he's delighted. He goes over, he gets a card off your man. He says, you know, he said, I'll write to you. I want you to send me that picture, you know? So when he went on inside, I went over to the guy and I said, could I have your card? I said, because I'd love to get that photograph as well, you know? And he goes, brilliant. So he gives me the card and I put it in my pocket. I'm really, really happy because that elderly gentleman was one of my childhood heroes who I never dreamt in 1,000 million years I'd ever meet in my life. And he was the second man to walk on the moon, Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut. And I, to this day, I mean, I'm very rarely awestruck by celebrities, but this man he's not a celebrity, like he's just an enigma, you know. I mean, second man to walk on the moon, and meeting him, somebody I'd read so much of the stuff through my whole life. I watched the moon landing on the TV as a kid, and I get to meet him. I just couldn't believe it. Not only did I meet him, he asked me for a photograph with me. It was nuts. You know, I went on from, I can't remember where I went with them after that, but I ended up then, I sold, again, about the emotional, you know, attachment to your business. I was able to sell my business, get rid of it. I walked away from the business and I signed on as his chief of security and personal bodyguard. And I took over as an international development director for his program in the Middle East and North Africa. Again, because of my experience in those countries. To put it in context and to make a long story short, that was 2014. I examined over 1,500 people with that doctor. We checked their ears, etc., etc. And now, having said, not an audiologist, but we're trained in basic audiology for field audiology, you know, where we're able to identify an infection or a perforated eardrum, etc., and to do voice tests and to be able to establish had they got a hearing loss. But believe me, you didn't really have to be a genius to figure it out. A lot of these kids had war trauma, damage to their ears, or they were born with birth defects and hearing loss and stuff like that, you know. So Mr. Austin come over, I set the mission up, and we seen and gave hearing aids to 1,400 patients, men, women and children, on that first mission.
There's quite a bit of video, like on YouTube, online, of these people who are hearing for the first time, like crying, because it's a huge emotional situation. I bet that played on the heartstrings big time.
What I loved about, and this was just again another coincidence, you know, and I'm saying coincidence, but if you knew me, I actually don't believe in coincidence at all. I just don't believe in coincidence. I believe things are meant to happen. If I, and I guess it's the nature of the beast, if I see an individual in an area, I see them once, and then suddenly I see them a second time, and I go, okay, or I see a vehicle a second time, or whatever it is a second time, I go, okay, and I look at it, it gets my attention. If I see it a third time, I'm investigating because it's not a coincidence. Yeah. That's what keeps me on my toes and keeps me alive all these years. But the irony with working with the foundation is that I come from a deaf family.
Okay.
My mother and two of my brothers are deaf. So for me, this was unbelievable because I was getting to, and I have a very old family. I was an accident. My next brother, who actually died a couple of years ago, my next brother to me, there's 14 years between us. So I was just like this accident that happened to my mum in her late 40s and that. So she was born in 1922, and my other brothers were born, you know, in the early 40s and that sort of thing. So the Republic of Ireland was just a new state, really, and we had a very basic health system, and hearing loss was like at the bottom of that list, because, you know, you could still do stuff, you know, you looked healthy enough, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't see it as a priority in the general scheme of things. So hearing healthcare was very, very poor. And of course, the devices themselves weren't really there, you know, as we know hearing aids now, which is, by the way, Mr. Austin invented mostly, he invented the in-ear canal hearing aid. He's got like thousands of patents on hearing devices over the years. Incredible. The guy's a genius. But then days they had like foghorns and all sorts of stuff and amplification devices, you know, and or none. And they either signed or they just lip read, you know. So every time I was on mission and we were fitting hearing aids, and as you said, you see in the videos, you know, somebody turns on a hearing aid and it's like, oh my God, this whole new experience for them. I often thought of my mom and my brothers and how incredibly different their lives would have been, the quality of life that they would have had there been a Starkey Foundation when they were young, had that technology been there or that opportunity to give them hearing, because it changed their life so dramatically. So every time we'd see that on mission or it would happen, I never got tired of it.
Amazing that you've been involved in allowing people to hear again. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Where does acting come into all this then?
Well, I would act in the ages, I'd call it. All right, so anyway, so years ago I did work with our national TV station, different programs that were on and that, and one guy came over, a producer, and said something, was talking to me, and then he introduced me to this guy who was a director, and they'd obviously had this conversation and decided that they liked the look of me. And for a little part in this production they were doing, and I was a bouncer, you know. So anyway, so then I was on one thing, and then other jobs started coming in, and I was asked to do various programs and stuff like that. And I kind of did that. Now, this was only part-time. This was like, I had no interest in it whatsoever, other than it was a bit of fun. You know, sometimes you'd get like a speaking part, and actually the money was quite good if you got to say something. But generally, you just kind of nodded or looked serious, or, you know, that's all, you know. In fact, I had Irish Wolfhounds at the time, and one of them appeared. Somebody seen a photo and said, "Oh, you have a wolfhound, yeah. Would you bring it on the show?" And the bloody dog got paid more than I did. You know? So, you know, anyway, a new series of Vikings, which I'm in. And my hair, by the way, it's not like this for Vikings. My hair is like this anyway.
Okay.
So I got a part in it now. I'm an extra. I'm an extra in it, and I'm loving it. It's great crack, and it's as I say, I've got Gaelic blood and a Viking heart, so it's like second nature to me.
So when's that due to be going live as such?
So I think the first series will come out so it's an extension of Vikings. It's called Valhalla. I'm not telling any secrets here because it's all over the internet what it is and that. But I'm not giving away any plots. Actually, I don't know. It's kind of like time travel. One scene you're like, you know, let's say it's August, and then the next scene it's back in April. You're filming, so you're backwards and forwards, so you don't know what's going on most of the time. But it should come out in maybe spring of next year. The first series should come out. It's going to be brilliant. Like, there's no doubt. It's a massive production.
And what channel can people watch it on?
Netflix.
Okay.
Had this one, yeah. Netflix. The last one was History Channel and HBO, I think. So I guess this will be History Channel and Netflix.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
We'll have to keep a lookout for that when it comes out. Finally, I have 10 very quick questions.
All right. Do I have a buzzer for this, or no?
Are you ready?
Go for it.
What's your favourite drink?
Tea.
Explains the tea today.
It's my favourite poison. Tea, yeah.
Pop or indie music?
Pop.
Most memorable moment?
Day I joined the army.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Who's your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration? My mum.
Most enjoyable thing about being a bodyguard?
Meeting people, so many different people. Yeah, good, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, I suppose you meet so many ranges.
Oh, so many. Like, we do have a saying, you know, about if you take a bullet for somebody, if you really like them, does it hurt as much as if you take a bullet for somebody that you actually can't stand? Anyway, yeah.
Favorite sports?
Gaelic sports, the Irish sport, hurling. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's my favorite sport. I love it. Absolutely love it. I played for my school, and the area I lived in. I played for the army, you know, in Gaelic football. Just loved it. Yeah, still do.
Beer or wine?
You're not going to believe I don't drink either anymore. But I was a Guinness drinker. I guess if there was a favorite, it would be Guinness.
If you were a transporter, what car would you turn into?
If I was a transformer, what car would I turn into? A Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah, I love them. I had them as a young dude. I've gone through a few of them, you know. And my favorite vehicle, if somebody came to me now and said, You can have a Porsche, you can have a Beamer, you can have a Lamborghini, or you can have a 1969 Volkswagen camper van. I would take the 1969 Volkswagen camper van.
Really?
My favorite vehicle.
Okay. And my last question is, if you had to live in a movie set for a week, where would it be?
Well, I'm kind of getting used to living in a Viking village at the moment. So yeah, Viking village.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
no problem at all.
It just goes to show that even when you hit rock bottom in life, it's always possible to get back up on your feet if you're willing to put the hard work in. As we heard Brenden speak about, he had two options. He could either put his last £5 in his fuel tank for his bike so he could go out to get more work, or he could have spent that last £5 on food. Now, both of those things are very big priorities. However, Brenden decided to spend it on fuel, which paid off. And it just goes to show that sometimes things we buy, the happiness can be very short-lived when we can spend it on other things that can keep us going to make us a success. If you have someone that inspires you, comment below. I'm always so interested to find out who others find inspirational. Likewise, if you have an inspirational story to tell, comment below, drop me a message on social media, or even drop me an email. On Sunday at 4 o'clock, I'll be speaking with Nick Dwyer about his challenges and the reason why he ended up helping many others. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below, let me know what you think, and don't forget to hit subscribe. See you all on Sunday. See you later.